are officially less than 24 hours until the 2026 NHL trade deadline. Welcome to Broad Street Hockey. I am your host, Ryan Gilbert. Joining me today is Jacob Russell. Jacob, how you feeling here? Nothing has happened yet officially for the Flyers, but we're starting to hear some more rumblings here.
I'm doing okay, Gilbs. I'm a little apprehensive as to what's actually going to happen tomorrow. I don't think anything's really been cleared up as of yet. And with all of these trades that are happening and then not happening, and the no movement clauses are bouncing around, you never know sometimes with where these guys are going to end up. But I think everything's setting up right now for it to be a busy day for the Flyers tomorrow if they want it to be, for sure.
Yeah, things are setting up nicely for Danny Briere to kind of get the price that he's asking for with Ristolainen. The big news today on Thursday was that Colton Parayko is not waiving his no trade clause to go to Buffalo. So the Sabres are apparently might revisit the Rasmus Ristolainen idea, according to Elliot Friedman just a little bit ago. But first, top of the show here, I got to get some housekeeping out of the way. Make sure you check out FanDuel. Thanks for them for sponsoring the show. Flyers are plus 102 in their game tonight against the Utah Mammoth in the trade deadline eve. No Travis.
Oh yeah, I guess they play tonight, eh?
No Nick Sealer. Yeah. There's 8 games tonight. There's 7 games tomorrow. Like, the NHL doesn't care. The NHL doesn't care at all. The Leafs held out players last night already. Like, it's chaos here up into the deadline. But my main thing, so today, BrowserJack.com wrote a thing about you can't let the Christian Dvorak extension be the defining transaction of the season. Like, every deadline so far, you traded Walker, you traded Lawton. Every offseason, you did something relatively major. And this season, it's the Dvorak extension. It's trading for Carl Grundstrom. It's all these minor trades, which are fine. But Briere, it does feel like he should do something, and he has stuck to his guns previously and gotten the asking price that he wants. And with Tyler Myers going for a second and a fourth when he's older, worse, and has trade protection, you have to think the Flyers should somehow at least get a first for Rasmus Ristolainen.
The way it's setting up now, it seems like an inevitability if you're able to find a landing spot for him that you get a first or something equivalent, a second and a third maybe with a prospect. Also maybe what might make sense, something we saw Nick Dowd get. Nick Dowd's a fourth line center, he's a fourth line center, and these picks are down the line. It was a 2027 third and a 2029 second the Golden Knights gave up in order to bring in Nick Dowd. But if you're a contending team, Rasmus Ristolainen will play a lot more minutes for you in a playoff scenario than Nick Dowd will, right? And I think we're looking at a landscape now where if Briere was to drop the price a little bit, which obviously isn't something that you want to do heading into the deadline, it's very hard to see a world where Ristolainen stays with the Flyers beyond tomorrow, right now.
Yeah, and obviously we're focused in on the Flyers, what Danny Briere has to do. Ristolainen is the big piece he has to sell, but the Flyers are in a position where he doesn't have to sell Ristolainen right now. We saw this 2 years ago with Scott Lawton. We're all right, you got to trade him now. Get the first while you can. Next year is a pending free agent. You're not going to get the same price. And they did. They got the first round pick. They got Krebenkin. So while we're the pressure's on Danny Briere, the pressure's really on all these other teams to do something to win. Because Danny Briere's not going to regret not trading Ristolainen and then keeping him to move in the offseason or next season. But the Red Wings, the Sabres, the Bruins, these teams in a wide open Eastern Conference could regret not getting a big right-handed defenseman for their playoff run when they get upset in the first round. That's something where GMs have pressure to make those big moves. And Risto is one of the biggest names on the board now. I mean, you have Robert Thomas, you got Parayko, maybe he'll go somewhere else, but it's Ristolainen, it's Justin Falk, it's Luke Shen. Ristolainen is clearly the best right-handed defenseman, maybe even just defenseman in general out there.
Yeah, and at this point, when Parayko, once Parayko was moved, that kind of threw a little bit of a wrench into the way we thought about the deadline. I don't think anyone thought that Parayko was necessarily a guarantee to go by Friday. But without Parayko, you look at a lot of the guys who've went went thus far. I mean, Nick Blankenberg is a depth guy. Mackenzie Weegar, um,
Yeah.
he goes for Ollie Mata in 3 seconds in the same draft, which is always funny. But again, Uyghur is obviously better offensively than Ristolainen, but he doesn't play that same sort of role that Risto does. And I think that Risto, for a lot of teams, is more. You can put him in a lot more situations. You can play him a lot different ways. You can play him on the penalty kill, maybe not focus more even strength. He can be a third pair guy if you have a really good D setup. Like I think if he goes back to Buffalo, there's a chance he maybe plays on all 3 pairs throughout the rest of the season, right?
Yeah.
Like he's a guy who can play all over the place. Whereas Uyghur is a puck mover, a power play guy, and you kind of need to put him next to someone with a bit more defensive acumen in order to get the best out of him. But you see these guys like Tyler Myers. I wrote about this yesterday actually on broadstreethockey.com. You look at Tyler Myers for a second and a fourth. Tyler Myers he's one of these guys who feels like for the last 20 years he's been a trade asset or a trade piece at the deadline, right? Like I remember being like 15 watching the trade deadline show and seeing Tyler Myers' name being floated out there when he was with the Jets and when he was with the Sabres even before that. So like these guys are all moving, but they're not better than Ristolainen. And it's not even to say that you have the rose tinted glasses on of Flyers fans. And we're trying to get the biggest haul possible for a guy who isn't necessarily that good. But Ristolainen has performed in the Olympics with the Flyers when he's healthy. Yeah. He's done well enough to be at least a middle pair defenseman on an average team, and on a good team, he can play a lot of different roles for you. And he's big, he's right-handed. Everyone loves that. The fetish with the right-handed defenseman still exists in the NHL, so that everyone loves his handedness. And like guys like Connor Murphy and the aforementioned Myers, like those aren't great defensemen. Ristolainen is legitimately better than them, and he has played it and he showed it. So I think there is a path where there is a lot of teams who can really start to get into this market, whether it be the Sabres, like we said before, or even someone like the Red Wings.
Yeah, Sabres are definitely interesting now. I got people in the chat. Nick Sav saying Risto and Brink for Merca in a first. That was a similar package as it was for Colton Parayko. Bobby Brink now being discussed a little bit as a potential sweetener with Ristolainen. I think you also wrote on that for BroadStreetHockey.com. Flyers finally could be the first sign of trying to clear up that wing log jam with Porter Martone coming up. Alex Bump's been scoring a bunch recently. Flyers also signed Garrett Wilson to a 2-way contract today, a longtime AHL guy with the Phantoms there. So that could be a sign that maybe some depth guys are moving. Apparently Nick Delorier is likely to get traded for some reason.
Why? Who's getting Nick Delorier though? I don't understand. I don't really get the need for Delorier. Even when they brought in Delorier originally, or brought in a guy like Garnet Hathaway, and Hathaway worked out for the Flyers. Garrett Wilson's been in the AHL for God knows how long, basically his entire career. You never gave that guy a shot, and now teams are going to trade for Nick Delorier. It's strange to me, but that seems like it's going to happen. It seems like the most likely guy to be dealt at this deadline might actually be Nick Delorier.
Yeah, Brian Lawton tweeted that out today. So yeah, I mean, Nick Delorier seems like a guy everyone loves him in the room. You can go out there. He fights. He plays 7 minutes a night. He hasn't been a complete liability. So a young team maybe looking for a veteran presence. I don't know if they like the Sharks or someone like that would look at it. Maybe like Seattle or Utah, a team like that doesn't necessarily have that veteran experience. Hathaway, I think, is a guy that I would want to go.
Yes.
Because just open up that spot, bring up someone like a Tomasino or a Boris Kachuk they just traded for, or a Garrett Wilson, reward him for some good time down there in the AHL. But Ristolainen, where are the top destinations right now? It's Buffalo as a possibility. It's Detroit. I know Boston's kind of been rumored a little bit.
Boston's on the outskirts a bit. I think mostly right now it's looking like Detroit and the Sabres that are the main spots for him. I think I heard the Habs a little bit earlier on in the month, or earlier on last month, I'd say. but I don't know if that's necessarily going to come to pass. A lot of what the Flyers do, as we've seen in the Briere Jones era, ends up being pretty quiet.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what happens. But I think at this point in time, you look at Buffalo already trying to get that right shot defenseman, that big right shot defenseman who can play in their top four, if need be, in Parayko, and that doesn't happen. So you can already see that they have some interest in a guy like that in a similar archetype. And yeah, the Red Wings, I heard also today that maybe they'll be looking at Oliver Ekman-Larsson, which with a lot of the young Swedish guys, Simon Edvinsson, Axel Sandin Pellikka, it's like, to me, that's like the perfect fit. Like, I don't even think you need to think about it much more than that if you're the Red Wings. But only one team can get OEL, even if he does go, right? And OEL, his wife's pregnant. He's due to have a child very soon. He's not necessarily jumping to leave the same way some other guys are. But it seems like he's been held out for the Leafs, so it seems like he'll probably go, and that link to Detroit seems to make a lot of sense right now to me.
Yeah. And that's not too far geographically. He could probably stay where he's living and finish out the season in Detroit there. So that
seems like a perfect fit there. Yeah. But there are a lot more teams who we don't know about who could use a tall right-handed shot defenseman. The good thing about Ristolainen is, like, besides the 3C, 4C, really good two-way player type guys, I think the big right-handed shot D is a type of player that's always in demand this time of year.
Yeah, and going back to what you were saying with, like, Ristolainen can do a lot of things. He can kill penalties. If you want a big shot on the second power play unit, he can do that.
They've tried it. He's done it. There is proof of concept that it exists.
He's played fairly significant minutes with pretty much every defenseman on the Flyers. He played with Zamula a bunch last year. He's played with Sanheim, played with Andre for a bit. He's played with Sealer. He fills a big hole on that right side. You can play him top pair if you want him top pair with an offensive guy on the left side. Like, he's a guy that can definitely fit in the Olympics. Definitely helped his value there a bit. And he's been flying since coming back, joining the rush, activating a bunch there. So Ristolainen there is the key guy. And, like, if I was another GM, I would almost prefer Ristolainen to Parayko. Ristolainen only $5.1 million through next year. He's 31 years old, around there. Parayko's 32, $6.5 million through 2030. Like, I don't think that contract is going to age very well. So, like, I feel like Parayko is definitely a better defenseman, but in the short term, I feel like Ristolainen could get similar value to Parayko if you want Merca in a first. I know you're a big draft guy. Merca taken 9th overall last year. What are your thoughts on him? I know you didn't want him at 6 or where the Flyers were, but
that was a very that would have been very negative. Jacob, if they did take him that high, but he's a big guy. It's tough for a lot of these guys.
218 pounds. Yeah,
you know why he's drafted there. I didn't see anything that I loved necessarily, but even as you saw in that draft, after Martone, after like Brady Martin, maybe, like, there wasn't a ton of guys who were really sexy and weren't wingers, right? There's a lot of wingers who I like Carter Bear. I liked Carter Bear, but Flyers didn't need a winger. Flyers didn't need a D-man. A lot of teams really don't like to draft wingers that highly anymore unless they're like studs, right? So Merca, again, it's one of those guys who's going to end up being a bit of a project, but I did like his intangibles, and his size obviously is great. I did think it was funny at the time that the Sabres basically drafted Risto 2 in kind of the same spot and the same thing. Like, they had a chance to get a little, but that's kind of what they needed, right? Again, with the Sabres, that's why it's so interesting that Risto could maybe go there, because they've got this plethora of past first and second round picks that are just dotted throughout their team, throughout the AHL system in Rochester. Like, there's too many of them. You don't need all of these, like, high skill ceiling guys. And it made sense in the moment for them, and it made sense to trade them and try and speed up the timeline a little bit, because obviously Merck is not ready. But again, like you said, I don't think Parayko is some like massive other tier above Ristolainen at this point in his career. And yeah, there's going to be a lot more there's a lot more commitment with Parayko than there is with Ristolainen. And I think that 5.1 million of Risto, that just a little bit less per year, it might help teams maybe, especially if they could get, if you have to retain to maybe get a bigger return on the back end. Like, yeah, I think that like 2.55 or whatever it would be on his deal, if you retain half of it, then like, yeah, I think that's very appealing to a lot of teams, especially a lot of playoff teams at this point in the game.
Is Murka a guy that you would want from Buffalo? Like, does he have like the same kind of runway as like a Jack Nesbitt? Like, they're not going to be ready for another 3 or 4 years. Does he have a high enough floor where he's definitely an NHL player, or would he be more of like a risk, a project player a little bit?
I definitely think he's an NHL player. It's just with these guys that are so big and not necessarily, ever going to really be offensive. Well, Murka's tough because he can be an offensive force at like a lower level. He's good with the puck. But he's not. He's kind of like Risto in the way where you don't often see him like throw these massive hits that you would assume a guy of his size would. But he's got a big stick. He's got a long stick. He's got a long reach, and he's not completely inept with the puck at this stage of his career, right? So I think that he'd be a very intriguing guy to have. And I think with the Flyers and how they've sort of built the decor around Sanheim and York and Drysdale, guys who aren't necessarily physical or even that big, right? Like Sanheim's pretty big,
even Bonk too. Like he's
yeah,
like
Bonk's also
like a solid second pair guy. Like he's not gonna be much better than that. Not gonna be a ton worse than that.
And it's not even about that really. It's about the archetypes, because I just can't see a world where you have Drysdale and York, and even if Emil Andre manages to stick around, I can't see a world where you want the Flyers brass would want to bring in another guy who's, and Bonk, as you said, also not huge. Yeah. The Flyers would want to replace Ristolainen with somebody with size. We saw them do it with Juleson. That's why Sealer was brought in to be the 6D man, or move up and down the lineup as is seen fit. But that's why he's there, right? It's that grit. It's a bit more of a meat and potatoes type of play style, and I think Murka could bring that. And I haven't necessarily watched him a ton this year, obviously, but I like the idea, right? If you're trading away Risto and you get back Murka, I don't think you get back Murka in a first the same way that you get for Parayko. I think that might be a bit of a stretch, or you would have for Parayko, unless you sweeten the deal with something else. But
like a Brink.
I do like that sort of like for like replacement, instead of just signing somebody in the offseason who's for a 2-year deal for $4 million for a guy that you go like, whatever. I think that makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, I think his runway is probably maybe not next year, maybe the year after. He played in the AHL, but this year.
And so you're basically getting a 10, 13-year younger version of Rasmus Ristolainen. And the Flyers don't have a ton of defensemen. They have Bonk, they have McDonald maybe, but like after that, what you got? Like Amico, you have Spencer Gill. It's a lot of guys that you're really hoping for.
And Amico and Gill, you can't even dream on, because they've both been injured for the majority of their, those first years, or had very debilitating injuries during their first years after they were drafted. So it's hard to really look at them in that way. And they're both a bit more, I'd say Amico less so, but Gill is at least, again, another Sanheim-ish type guy, where he's tall and he's big, but he's not necessarily a bruiser or anything like that. So, it's weird. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what they end up picking up on the back end if they do trade Risto.
Yeah, and Murka is a guy that he'll hold his value. Everyone always wants a big right-handed defenseman, as we've seen, like Ristolainen. Like you could flip him for a first-round pick or use him in a package for a 1C at some point if you wanted to there.
100%.
Another guy in Buffalo that I wanted in his draft year, Costa Helenius. He's been up in the AHL these past few years. Got 9 games in the NHL this year as well. Do you think he's a guy that you could get for Risto, or would that take like a Risto and Brink and like maybe like you trade us, give them a second and get back like a third? Because like Hellenius seems like a guy that you could just put in at 2 or 3C right now.
I think you could put him in the lineup start of next year and almost pencil him in the way that you do Bonk. I'd say if I was a Sabres fan and I traded a guy who had 40 points in 43 games in his second AHL season now.
Yeah.
In his second AHL season, and made some, had 4 points in 9 games in his time in the NHL. I'd be upset at trading that guy, right? Especially when he was the 14th overall pick in 2024 in that draft. And he's really the only center in that draft at that sort of range that has really like started to click a little bit. He's the guy that I did want at that spot for sure.
Yeah.
But he has, he's performed quite well in the AHL. And again, I don't think I don't have a huge value. I don't place a huge value on Risto, to be honest. I don't think he's a guy who gets you a top 3 prospect in a system, unless that system is like something like the Maple Leafs. You trade him to the Maple Leafs, which you obviously won't, but where they only have really Easton Cow and Ben Danford, and that's their prospect pool, right? Maybe that is one where you can get a guy like a highly valued prospect on the team out of the organization. But Hellenius, for me, it does seem like you'd need more on top of Risto to get that done.
Or could it be like an Owen Tippett type of thing? If the Sabres are poking around Owen Tippett, you give them a good, top 6 scoring winger. You get back a young center. I don't know if you do that 1-for-1 or as the main pieces, but I feel like that's something that both fan bases could get excited about. Both teams might look to do.
Yeah. Again, Tippett's another one of those guys who, if you're a team, and this is what the Flyers have in abundance, if you're a team who needs like a second line winger, Owen Tippett at this point, like playing alongside some of the younger guys that the Sabres have, I think he could really find a role there as sort of a guy who doesn't need to carry as much of the goal scoring load as he does in Philly, because I feel like he does get a lot of pressure placed on him to score, because the Flyers really don't have a ton of guys who are necessarily goal scorers, especially with Forster being out. But again, I think you look at that and you almost say, I don't necessarily know if that's a great deal 1-for-1 either. Hellenius, I think, is going to be an NHL center, but if he's only another 3C, then we're stuck kind of in the same problem that you already had, and you gave up a guy like Tippett, who is on a pretty reasonable contract. I think it's a contract that'll get better and better. And I think Tippett's one of those guys to me who I could see a late career or later in his career take another little bump up in production, right? I don't think there's really a ceiling on what Tippett has, just because a lot of his game up until this point, especially with the Flyers, has been held back by like the sort of streakiness of it.
So to go against that though for a little bit, like what if Tippett loses his legs? What does he have then? He doesn't have an amazing shot. I think
he's got a pretty good shot.
He has a good shot. He has good puck skills, but his calling card is his speed. He uses his speed 5-on-5, penalty kill now too. If he has like a leg injury or loses that speed as he ages, it's not going to be a bad contract. It's still a good contract. It's going to age kind of like the Ristolainen one has. Like people are unsure about it, and now it's an asset with the cap rising. So that's what I wonder about Tippett is like, if he loses that speed and he's not shooting the puck as much, like is he just like another JVR like late in his career, like kind of a different type that's like kind of more one-dimensional? But I could also see him becoming more of a two-way player than and with the penalty kill kind of transitioning to 5-on-5.
And what I find it hard sometimes to evaluate some of the guys on the some of the wingers on the Flyers, right? Because you look at a guy like Bobby Brink, and he's going to have the same sort of point total as Tippett. But a lot of the Brink points, goals come from that line of Forster, Cates, Brink, where I think we would, say that line just kind of found something randomly and became the Flyers' best line in stretches last year and for a brief time this year. Who's Owen Tippett playing with? They had him with Coots for a little bit. You know,
let me pull up the money puck for the Flyers, because like
they played him with Coots for a little bit.
He was
Coots
with
doesn't score.
Dvorak and Zegras for a bit. Yeah, his most common line mates are Zegras and Dvorak, and then this Couturier-Barkey line they have going, and then I played with Couturier and Michkov for 64, and Couturier and Konechny for 56, but primarily Dvorak, Zegras, but Tippett, Barkey, Couturier is quickly going to overtake that, but that's 64.5 expected goal share as well. Like, they've been dominating. They just haven't been getting the finishing.
It seems like everyone on this team has problems with like scoring.
Yeah.
Like putting the puck in the net. There are some times where they can hold the puck in the offensive zone, they'll cycle it around, they'll even get some shots from the point that are blocked, but the real like incisive moves are kind of just coming off of turnovers, or like that Dvorak goal that he scored last game, where it's just a poke through the 5-hole, the goalie, and it's like, okay, well, it bounces around, rattles in, and just in the net, but you can't rely on that. And you've seen it over the past week and a half, where the Flyers have been winning games, but they're not scoring more than 3 goals in a game. So you got to rely on Dan Vladar to do it. And partially that, I think partially that is a fault of the players, but we've seen it for quite a little bit that this team's offensive systems, whatever they may be, and however they have changed from the Tortorella era to Rick Tocchet now, they just don't, outside of Zegras and the guy who just showed up, Zegras and Dvorak, realistically, the guys who just showed up, it's really just Konechny who scores, who's a threat to go a point per game. Outside of that, we've seen Michkov struggle. We've seen Couturier fail to have any offensive impact. Cates has struggled without Forster, as so has Brink. So it's hard. I think if you put Owen Tippett, like, to me, if you put Owen Tippett alongside some like really talented offensive centers or really talented offensive players who actually focus on like playing offense, I think they might have a decent shot at it. At him maybe getting to be a 60-point guy, and then at that point you can say, okay, we stick him on a second line and forget about it. Maybe his legs do go. He's not a kid anymore. He's not super young. He is 27 now, so like just turned 27. Yeah, just turned 27. So he's got, he's not a prospect anymore, but at the same time, I don't know. I just feel like there's something left that the Flyers never tapped into, but he is so streaky, it's hard to tell. And Hellenius is a guy who I think everybody would be happy to get in the door, regardless of what it costs. Tippett, I think, is a guy that he'll hold his value. He's always going to score. Teams always want goal scorers. That 6.2 cap hit through 2031 is not going to be too big of an issue. So, he has a modified no trade clause kicking in on July 1st, though, I do believe. So that could be something to keep an eye out if they don't trade him at the deadline. Maybe a pre-draft trade like we saw the Zegras trade go down last summer. But just kind of tying the end here with the Sabres and Hellenius. I think if the Flyers wanted Hellenius, they would have drafted him over Jetluchenko. Also, he's only 5'11". I think that's one of the things that the Flyers don't want from him. If he doesn't have that high offensive upside, he's small. Is he just another Dvorak, Cates, Luchenko type guy that, if you have the great wingers like Michkov, Martone, Forster, Konechny, Tippett, you can work with, but you can only have so many of the same type of centers. So those are the two main prospects, though, for the Sabres, right? Marka and Hellenius. Yeah, I mean, they've got guys on the roster. Like Ostland was a guy that I was thinking about. Peyton Krebs was maybe a guy that I thought about, but like Yuri Kulich, there's so many of them on the Sabres who are potential guys who you could target in a trade. These are more for Risto trades rather than Tippett.
Yeah.
I mean, Ostland would be one where you probably have to give up a little bit more.
Josh Norris, what are your thoughts on him? I know we brought him up in the Slack. I brought him up on the podcast. His contract does seem a bit too long given his injury proneness.
Yeah, in theory it works, right? In theory, you could see making that bet on Norris becoming like a 2C And then you squint and you got Cates and Norris and Dvorak, and you're like, oh, okay. I mean, Coots is there somewhere, but you got those guys there, and you can kind of look at it and be like, okay, maybe there's something there. But Norris has been great this year.
When healthy, he's played 23 games this year.
When healthy, yes, that is an important modifier. It's hard to put your faith in this guy because I know the Senators had the same issue with him. Like they tried for so long to try and get him to be healthy, and with Tkachuk and all those guys who were there on the wings, they tried to really even Drake Batherson's having a great year. Mm-hmm. They tried to really force Norris to be that 1C and be the catalyst of those lines. He never played more than 66 games with the Senators. No. He's played 56, 66, 8, 50, 53. Oh no, 56, sorry. And then he's played 23 this year. So he's projected right now. He's on pace to play 44. So he's usually, he can approach a point per game. Like he'll be like 10 off probably, which, maybe 7.
Yeah.
3/4 of a point per game probably would be a good
65-point player.
Yeah. He'd probably be a guy who's
he has the offensive upside that you could pair with Tippett and then a more defensively responsible guy and work it out. But yeah, he's 26, 7.95 million, pretty much 8 million through 2030. Like that's a big contract to have when you already have Couturier, you already have Dvorak.
It's the Couturier roadblock is the problem. You can probably take that shot if you don't have Couturier, and I don't think it would be. Maybe it would be this year because he's had such a good year in a limited sample size. But if you didn't have Couturier, maybe you can take that shot. But with Couturier there and he's not going anywhere,
no,
you kind of need a higher upside play that can at least stay healthy, right?
Yeah, I wonder if like the Sabres and Flyers would consider like a bigger trade where it's like Risto and Tippett for like Norris and a prospect, where like you're taking back that contract, but you're giving them the Tippett contract for long term. I think Tippett's a good replacement for JJ Peterka in Buffalo. Like they didn't want to pay Peterka that much. Tippett's only at 6.2, but like I don't know if they're going to shake up their rosters that much in the season when things seem to be going well for the Sabres. So
yeah,
if they make a trade, it should be from their prospects.
Well, yeah, if they, that's another reason why I can't see them doing anything with Norris right now, especially since they did just trade Cousins for him last year, and that was a pretty big deal. And they're finally starting to get a little bit of payoff from that now. But I would see a world where Tippett and Risto both went to Buffalo makes sense. Again, it's maybe more of an off-season thing, just given how the Sabres have been rolling currently. And I don't even know if the Flyers are like really clamoring to get rid of Tippett.
No, they're not.
The no trade clause thing, I get it, or the no move. It's a no move, right?
I think it's like a 10-team no trade clause or something. Like it's not like it's not a
it's not a big
it's
not a huge. I know it's not a full no move, and I don't think it's something that they have to be too worried about if they ever want to do maneuver.
10-team no trade list for the next.
So
4
that's
years.
not something. That's not something. So it's all the Canadian teams and like Utah and I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine. Like it's
somebody weird.
Like it's perfectly fine.
Yeah. So you can't trade him to Winnipeg.
No, I think that's more than enough Sabres talk for this podcast. Maybe Risto will go there. I don't think it'll be too big of a package. Mertka could be a good return. Ideally, they get a first for Risto. I started us off saying the Flyers don't have a ton of pressure to trade Risto, but I think a team that does have a lot of pressure to make some sort of move is the Red Wings. Steve Yzerman, they missed out on Quinn Hughes, missed out on Panarin. Maybe they'll go for like Trocheck or someone like that, but Tyler Myers didn't want to go there. So Risto could be an option for the Red Wings. I know Nate Danielson is one of their top prospects, a 6'2" center. He doesn't seem to have too high of an offensive upside. 7 points in 28 NHL games this year, 15 points in 18 AHL games, 39 points in 71 games in the AHL last season. Is he someone you would be excited about if it was like him in a second or him in a first, I think would probably be good, but like him in a second, would that be acceptable, or would you rather have Briere kind of stick to his guns and keep Risto?
At this point, I'm not necessarily like, so there's a couple guys who are sort of the same in my mind, like Michael Rasmussen, and oh my God, who did you just say?
Danielson.
Sorry. Yeah, Rasmussen and Danielson. Very similar in my mind. I'm not too tapped into what Rasmussen has been doing, but Danielson, he's struggled to stay in the lineup once these guys once they've really started to turn it around, the Red Wings, and they've started to try and compete. But at the same time, it is another center. He's a big enough guy to where, yeah, you can not have to worry about him in the same way that you would like a Hellenius, where the Flyers wouldn't want him just because he's small. He was supposedly supposed to be a little bit more offensive than he has been. But even in the WHL, like even when he was drafted, it was mostly a point per game. So it's not like there's really anything there to project that he's going to have some massive offensive jump when it comes to the NHL level. You can give it a shot. You can give it a go. He's still only 21, but I just don't think that it solves a problem. I think you're just getting another Noah Cates type guy. I think
you would still want a first then from Detroit.
Like in with
Danielson. Yeah.
I guess I don't know if Detroit would do that just because of like you're technically giving up 2 first rounders at that point, and Danielson was the 9th overall pick, which is kind of crazy. But it is one of those things where you don't really know how much. I don't know how much the Red Wings value Danielson internally anymore, right? Like there is that pick pedigree, but you got Larkin. They seem to like Comfer and Kopp and Comfer and in those roles. There you go. And yeah, Rasmussen is a guy who can do the similar sort of thing. Same as Marco Kasper, right? They've all kind of been in the same sort of realm of these guys can't really score that much, but they're high caliber, or they were at least high caliber prospects, and they play down the middle. So it's hard. I don't really know if it's too enticing. I think Danielson in a first is like the baseline, not the baseline, but it's a good return for Ristolainen 100%, but I wouldn't bring Danielson in and expect him to like automatically turn it up and then start scoring, right? I just don't see that as a thing that'll happen, and I don't know if the Flyers really care to do that at that point, because it seems like they've got enough of those guys in the system right now. Might have 3.
Kasper would be interesting. He had 19 goals, 18 assists in 77 NHL games last year.
He is a lot more offensive, and he is a bit more highly looked at than the other two, for sure.
Yeah, 15 points in 61 games this year. Hasn't really done too much.
He's been down the lineup.
Yeah, if you guys were looking at why I was making such an ugly face while Jacob was talking, I was looking up Michael Rasmussen's career numbers. He's a career high 33 points 3 years ago, 21 points last year, 14 points this year. He's already 26 years old, so that's not a guy that I would look at there. But yeah, Danielson, could be with a first. I think I'd be happy about that. Or Kasper could be interesting as well. I'd love to have some ghost puns back on the Flyers. But the Red Wings haven't really been linked too much to Ristolainen. It just seems like a fit because they wanted Tyler Myers. OEL, as you mentioned before, seems like a much better fit for the Red Wings.
And they haven't gotten anything done yet. And Yzerman, I think, has sort of talked up or made it seem as if like they're going to try and really push for something this year. And an Eastern Conference is pretty wide open, especially without the Panthers being decimated by injuries. They might still make it in, but they're not as it's really. I don't think so. I don't think so. But you can see, look at the Eastern Conference, and you see a path for the Red Wings to do something. So it would be shocking to me if they don't get some deal done before Friday's over.
Yeah. One team there's one guy that I really would want the Flyers to get here. Tampa Bay Lightning have apparently been linked to Bobby Brink a little bit. People have been speculating, putting Brink with Ristolainen in a package together there to sweeten the return there. And if that were to happen with the Lightning, I would love to get Connor Geekie back in return there. 6'4", Connor with only one N in his name, by the way. Not sure.
It's like Garland.
Yeah, like Connor Garland there. 51 points in 47 AHL games this year, 14 points in 52 NHL games last season. He's a big boy. Keith Jones would probably love him. The Lightning got him with JJ Moser for Mikhail Sergachev. JJ Moser turned into a good player for them, so they wouldn't feel like they got nothing from the Sergachev trade. So like something with like Ristolainen and Brink for Connor Geekie, and you take back like a Borkstrand contract type of thing, would be a spicy move for the Flyers. And I wouldn't mind seeing my boy Bobby Brink go down to Tampa Bay and kill it there.
Yeah, I know. And Brink, I was writing about this today as well. For the Lightning especially, they have Gage Gonsalves, is bottom six winger. He just got injured. He's out day to day. Nick Paul's out for the foreseeable future, and then Dominic James, who is one of their rookies who come up, had a pretty good year. He's also going to be out for at least a couple months, if I remember correctly. And coming out of the draft, Geekie actually was the sexier of the Geekie brothers. I think not physically. I don't have much of the scouting report on that, but Morgan wasn't necessarily the guy who was going to score at the same level. He was a third round pick and has popped off out of nowhere for the Bruins. But Connor Geekie, he's the first round selection, and in the AHL, even this year in the AHL, 51 points in 47 games. That's not hard. It's not easy to do. That's a tough league down there in the A. It just hasn't stuck in Tampa. A lot of that could be where he plays in the lineup. A lot of that could be inconsistent minutes. There's not really a push for a guy like John Cooper to necessarily play Geekie over some of the other guys he has, like Cirelli or Braden Point, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard for him to get any touches on the power play either, for that same reason, with Kucherov and all those guys. But Geekie is somebody, if the Flyers were to take a shot on a center, I would really like to see Connor Geekie there. You never know what he'll necessarily turn into with the Flyers, but at the very least, you have another big body who is has the potential to put points on the board, right? I think he, at his best, there is a lot of potential still left in there. It's just a matter of squeezing it out of him. I don't know if they can, but it'd probably be easier for him to get time. It'd definitely be easier for him to get time with the Flyers rather than Tampa. Like, he has one good month. He's the 1C.
Yeah, and he's only 21, turns 24 in May. His 51 points are 7th in the AHL. Do you know who has the most points in the AHL? Also on the Syracuse Crunch. Flyers legend. Flyers legend just left for Tampa in the offseason. Flyers didn't qualify him. Jacob Pelletier.
Oh my God, I forgot about him.
22 goals, 36 assists, and 48 games.
Everybody hates him.
Yeah,
he'll never play in the NHL again.
No,
I do not know why.
No, he's the next Jordan Wheel. He'll go to the KHL and just win MVP.
Oh yeah, he'll go to Rogel BK in the SHL and have 50.
Yeah, but I mean, I imagine Geekie and Pelletier are playing together there on the top line. Dylan Duke also has 46 points for the Crunch up there. But yeah, Geekie, he is a center. He's a big body. That's what the Flyers are looking for. They're not looking for guys that might be wingers, especially with Jet Luchenko playing some wing recently. They need a center prospect that can come in and play. I guess not even they have Dvorak, Cates, and Couturier holding down 3 spots. They need one more, ideally a 1C to put above those guys. And maybe Geekie could be that. He could be the big body, put him with Michkov, put him with Konechny, see what happens there. He did play a bit with Cirelli and someone else last year, but primarily with bottom sixers this year when I looked it up a little bit before.
Yeah, I mean, even Cirelli, a bit of an offensive guy, but he's known for his two-way game, right? And the shorthanded play. So it's not like you're playing with Point and Kucherov. But at the same time, you look at a guy like Geeky, and I see also another aspect of the Flyers that has gone really underreported, and undervalued, and that's a net front guy on the power play. Like
Yes.
6'4", got some hands, send him to the front of the net and tell him to jam around. If he gets 10 power play goals, that's worth the price of admission at this point. Like it's literally, it literally is, right? So it doesn't even need to be anything too insane for Geeky to be a success here. I think you get a guy with maybe the potential to score 25 goals, 55 points, if he can find that sort of rhythm that he had in the AHL. And it's a guy who you can try to put him in front of the net and see if it helps at all. You know, I think that's been a big piece of the Flyers power play that's been missing for quite a while, and it's held them back because a lot of even, you know, these times where Tortorella or even Tocchet have tried to just resort to point shots and chaos.
Yeah, it's not good.
There's nobody in front. Is Bobby Brink in front? He's getting cleared out. No offense, Bobby. Wrong pick because we're already trying to trade him, so I don't really want to pile drive on my boy like that. But it's tough for those guys in front of the net to like really establish position. I think that's been another thing that has just held back an already putrid Flyers power play for years, is they never got another Wayne Simmons type of guy, or even JVR.
Or to score 10 power play goals for the Flyers in a season.
To score? The last person
to score 10 power play goals in a season for the Flyers. JVR in the 2021 season.
That makes sense, actually.
And that was a shortened season, 56 games. He had 9 power play goals the following year, and then before that, it was Wayne Simmons with 11 in 2017-18. So 10 power play goals. I mean, plan the parade. There's 10 power play goals. Like,
that's a lot. That's maybe a lot.
I'll pull a Bill
maybe
Max.
a lot.
You've got to, no, but
I didn't think that was the high bar that I thought it was, but I guess it is.
Zegras has 8 this year. He could get there. He could get there if the power play picks it up a bit. But talking about Geeky, talking about Tampa, they do only have $2.5 million in cap space. So either you'd have to retain on Risto and probably still take someone back. Borkstrand is a pending UFA, $5.4 million with a 10-team no trade list. So I imagine the Flyers either aren't on that or could talk to him and maybe try to flip him or find like a 3-way trade to move it there, because that seems like a good fit. Get Risto down there. I mean, Brink as well. They've been beat up, and the Flyers get a young, big center that can realistically go in the lineup right away.
Yeah, and I don't think it's too big of a deal. Like, I kind of assume that if there's going to be a deal, Bjorkstrand will be involved going to the Flyers. But I think it's worth it. If you're getting a guy like Geeky, it's definitely worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it doesn't work out, the swing is what you need to take on it. You can't just let, you can't just let the draft conspire, right? And just let it finish and hope that one of these guys 2 years down the line is going to be the 2C, 1C playing the top 6, because I think you need to take as many shots as you can at this point, because you don't really, you got 3 of the same guy right now, and you got 3 of more of that guy potentially coming up through the ranks.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you need to make a move. Oliver Bjorkstrand, actually same amount of points this year as Sean Couturier.
Really? Well,
more than Bobby Brink. He's got 28.
That's interesting there. So talking mostly selling so far. I guess maybe trading for Geeky would be kind of a hockey trade, but you are getting definitely much younger. If the Flyers were to, do you think there's a chance they either make a hockey trade or maybe even buy a little bit? Robert Thomas, the Blues are holding for a huge ransom.
Yeah.
Apparently, Shane Wright seems like not a guy that the Flyers are going to want. Don't really see any other centers out there that the Flyers could possibly want, but you never know. Flyers do tend to operate in silence. But any guys, any inklings you have there?
I think it's one of those where you're gonna have to wait until Risto. If Risto leaves, like if Risto was to be traded tomorrow or before tomorrow, Maybe they go look out and try to find, send a fourth out for a defenseman with a couple years left on their deal.
Yeah.
Like Zach Whitecloud got traded sometime earlier this year, and that's the type of guy, not obviously him because he was just traded, but
That was
that type of guy.
Rasmus Anderson trade. Yeah.
Yes, Rasmus Anderson. Yes. So like a guy like that who can just fill a spot for a little bit, and maybe if he plays well, right? Like same thing with Nick Seeler, who just randomly showed up one day and he's still here.
Oh
So
yeah. Like
it could be the case where you dump Risto, send the third out to get a defenseman. That defenseman ends up filling the role essentially the same way as Risto did. So that's the ideal scenario, obviously. But besides that, I was interested in, like, I thought about for a bit the possibility of, if the Leafs wanted to trade Stolarz, bringing him back, but I don't know if that's really feasible, especially at the deadline. I do like, in theory, a 1-2 punch of Vladar and Stolarz. That's something that I find interesting. Again, you would be blocking a guy like Zavragin if he was to come in, but I do like those two as a tandem. But really, all I think of is a goalie or a depth defenseman, and probably a backup goalie. I think Stolarz is too much to really pay for, and I don't think it fits right now. It's just sort of the type of guy you would need to pair alongside Vladar to get the best out of him.
yeah,
But
Stolarz has 4 more years after this. Yeah, he signed that
yeah,
extension at 3.75. So
it's not a crazy deal though. Like
no,
it's not insane.
and like realistically, he should be in a tandem. Like he can't be a starter. So
Well, it's more of a health thing for him, especially too. I think he's one of those guys who plays better when he doesn't have to play 50 games a year.
Yeah.
So I think if you split it 40-40 down the middle with him and Vladar, that's, I'm good with Stolarz for the next couple of years at least, if he's shown to be good enough. And I don't think, even if we get to the future 2 years down the road, he's not necessarily starter anymore. 3.75 for a backup is very reasonable. It's just, getting a look at those young goaltenders that you have in the system, that you don't want to block them necessarily and make it a more difficult path for them to come through and start to, grow into that tandem with Vladar rather than bringing somebody in. But that's pretty much the only two scenarios I can think of where it would be a hockey trade. I don't think they'd trade for a center, because it would probably just be, another guy that the guys they already have.
It'll be Morgan Frost 2.0. Bring back Morgan Frost. But like Robert Thomas, I was into the idea for a bit. Like I would be willing to give up like a Brink, Luchenko, Bonk, and a first. Like I feel like that is something.
I'm not mad at that.
Tippett instead of Brink, Forster instead of as the main piece would probably be what St. Louis asks for. Oof. But I think Forster's a better player than Thomas, and I'm not willing to give up all of that just to get a center. Unless the Flyers think Forster's injury prone now, which I don't know if he is. I think once you know, you can't bet on that. But if you're giving up Forster, Luchenko, Bonk, and a first for Robert Thomas, you have to think Robert Thomas is the guy, and I don't think he is the guy. He could be a guy. He's a great 2C.
He's a guy.
A decent
one. Definitely a guy.
He's a guy. He's a guy.
He's like Jordan Kyrou. It's the same thing with Kyrou. You look at Kyrou and you're like, is that a first line winger who's going to like actually almost like Zegras, right? Point per game.
Yeah, Jordan Kyrou.
Probably not. No, he's a good
Jordan Kyrou's Owen Tippett. That's pretty much what he is.
Yeah.
Same role. Two minor trades happening around the league while we're recording here. Sharks acquire defenseman Jet Wu from the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for defenseman Jack Thompson. And the Minnesota Wild acquire Jeff Petrie from the Panthers for a 7th round pick in this year's draft here. So there's two blockbusters.
We're still swapping Jeff Petrie around now.
Jeff Petrie's still going around.
The draft pick becomes don't worry, the conditional 7th becomes a 5th round selection if Minnesota reaches the Western Conference Final and Petrie appears in 50% of the games. So I know you guys all need to be informed on that, on the trade protections for the massive Jeff Petrie deal. But so that's why you come here, to get that sort of breaking news. That's the type of thing. And the Kachuk thing also, you need to touch on that for a second. That's the type of thing that is probably going to happen. It's not going to be anyone you may have even heard of. It may not be anybody who even plays in the NHL, right? Like I don't think, maybe Boris Kachuk finds a couple games here, but I highly doubt it. I'd give Tomasino that way before I gave to Kachuk.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bunch of guys swapping chairs at a table they don't fit at. If that works, if that analogy works.
But we might see, Danny Briere doing some good asset management. We got Grundstrom for nothing. Maybe he flips Grundstrom for like a third or fourth round pick. He's done that with like Ryan Poehling. I was looking, like when I wrote my article, I was looking back. They got Ryan Poehling for nothing off the scrap heap.
No,
gave him an extension, got Trevor Zegras out of it. Like you can find these guys and turn them into something. But going negatively a little bit here.
I was wondering what's going to come.
Yeah, we got to go here because you're writing about it. I'm going to write about it after the deadline. Like, imagine what the Flyers could get for Christian Dvorak at this deadline. We saw Nick Dowd get traded for a second round pick in 2029, a third round pick in 2027, and Jesper Vikman, and then Nicholas Waugh as well, traded from Toronto to Colorado for a conditional first round pick and conditional fifth round pick. Do we know what the conditions are on that first round pick yet?
The first round pick is top 10 protected in the Nick Waugh deal, if that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah, it is. So
top 10 protected. Yeah, so it's top 10 protected. For the Avs pick is top 10 protected.
Yeah, so I know you're writing this article. I'm not sure if you've done it yet, but take it away here. What is your takeaways?
I'm close. I'm close. I'm almost there. Well, and it's just one of those things. You look at everyone around the league. You look at Jason Dickinson, not a good player, really.
Yes, Jason Dickinson trade too.
It reminds me of when the Oilers got Trent Frederick for like a first, or it was a second or something kind of stupid. And they traded Frederick to the Oilers, and he showed up, and it's like, yeah, he's a fourth line center. What'd you guys think?
Yeah.
So it's the same with Jason Dickinson, but Jason Dickinson, you're getting a first round pick for him. I mean, it's him and Doc, but I don't. It's the worst Doc.
And they took back the Mangiapane contract.
They take back the Mangiapane contract, but Jason Dickinson is in no world like an asset that is unique by any sense of the imagination. There's a lot of him out there, and he's able to fetch a first. Dvorak's having a career year, plays two-way, has played power play, penalty kill, and even strength. Has looked really good alongside Zegras, who, I don't think a lot of people even knew how that would go, right? Like Christian Dvorak and Trevor Zegras. I'm pretty sure a lot of people heading into that season did not expect that to be the Flyers' top line. And even if both guys were on the team, right? You'd expect Couturier to be up there, maybe Cates and Forster with Zegras, or Cates and Brink, and they try to do that thing where they just remake Tyson, Forster, Noah Cates, Bobby Brink, but with one different guy of the three. But you look at it, and Nick Dowd's getting second and third. Nick Dowd I didn't even know he was still playing for the Capitals, to be honest with you. I like Nick Dowd, but it's been a minute since he was like, I remember him during that cup run, right? And it's been a while from when that happened. The thing with Dvorak is, you could have got a lot for him. You probably first and a second and a prospect. Probably. He's on pace for what, 50 something, right?
Yeah, Nicholas Waugh has 20 points in 59 games. I know he won a cup with Vegas. Career high 41 points 2 years ago.
Slow with the Leafs. Also, he started very slow. He's been turning on a bit, but yeah, he is what he is.
Yeah, no points in his past 5 games. 5 points in 16 January games. Like, he started slow, had a decent middle, I guess, but has been pretty. It's like that. This is why I get hung up on the Dvorak extension, because it's the one asset mismanagement I think Briere has done. Like, you signed him, you overpaid him for 1 year in the offseason. You put him in a good position to have a career year. He's doing that. And then you give him the extension less than midway through the season, and the team goes into the tank. He kind of hits a wall, and you're seeing now at the deadline, you could have got a first and a second and probably a young center for him. It's just tough. That's my one qualm with Briere so far, and it's not enough to overshadow everything else. Like we've talked about it way too much, but it's just here at the deadline when you're seeing these completely mid centers, and like not even mid centers. Dvorak is a mid center. Like Nick Dowd, Nicholas Waugh are like just like veteran.
They're three
locker.
C's with no potential to be above that. And Dvorak, honestly, up until this year, was that exactly. I would never have thought to play Christian Dvorak on the second line before this season.
Yeah.
The Habs didn't do it, and they weren't very good when he was on the Habs. Right, the Habs have gotten better now. But we saw that he had maybe a little bit more in the tank, definitely more in the tank than the other guys we mentioned. Like those guys, Nick Wad's playing with, I don't care who he plays with. Nick Wad with Zegras is a horrible line. He would not score more because of that. So I'll give Dvorak that. Yes, he has been very good. And I was looking at sort of his splits, and they signed the contract on January 5th. At the turn of the new year, he had 9 goals and 25 points in 39 games. He was playing like 17 minutes a night. He played power play, penalty kill. He's first line center. He's with Zegras, blah, blah, blah. He was the most important center on the team.
Yeah.
They signed the contract on the 5th. He was a 4-game point streak. And then since then, in his last 16 games, he's got 8 points. So he's back down to half a point per game, that's Christian Dvorak.
He can't finish. He can't finish. It pisses me off.
He's never been able to, there's no ceiling. Like the fact that this even occurred, that's why it's frustrating to people who maybe have followed Christian Dvorak since his time in Arizona, since his time, even, coming out of the draft. 121 points in London. Like he was viewed as a guy who could score a ton, but again, he was on those teams in the OHL that would dominate. He gets the NHL and he never he's a lockdown 35-point guy in a full season. He had some times with the Habs where he had 33 and 56, 28 and 64. But then last year, 33 points, 82 games. He was healthy. He played the entire season, and that's what it was. And he's not going to get better as he ages. He's not going to get quicker. He's not going to finish more. He's not going to be a better finisher. And you look at it now, and they decided, I think I put in the article, Briere and the Brass decided to hold on to their found money. Like they just took the money, like they found a 20 on the ground. They didn't do anything with it. They just put it in their pocket. So I got it. Now you got like 5 20s, and it's still not enough to buy what you want. So this is the issue, is like you could have gotten a stupid amount for what Christian Dvorak is as a hockey player. Maybe the next 5 years I can't even say it. Maybe he's a 50-point guy, but I would be shocked. He's never scored over 20 in the NHL. He's not a guy who plays up the lineup, and a lot of the time he was playing for teams who weren't very good. And it does seem like, just to finish off and just to hand it back to you so you can get upset, it does seem like the reason why they signed him is because Rick Tocchet really liked him in Arizona. Yeah. And then he had his career, and then had a career year, and that's why they signed him.
Yeah, got a career year. The guys love him.
I don't even know. Everybody seems to love Christian Dvorak. Seems to be a great guy. Yeah. He's well loved in everywhere he's been, and in Montreal, all that. I don't know how much, I'll put my tinfoil hat on, I don't know how much of that was Briere's decision.
Yeah.
And we'll never know.
You don't know.
But it just seems to go against the original plan when you sign him for 1 year and you say out loud, this is an overpay, so we can get him for 1 year. It is weird when you immediately pay him around that for the next 5 during the season.
Yep. During the season,
before the deadline.
As a 30, now 31-year-old.
You could have signed him at the end of the year. He would have went to market, but if he had his career year, I mean, I guess it'd be harder to sign him at the end of the year if he had his career year, but maybe if he ends up with 45 points, he's not necessarily a career year. It's just a really good one.
Yeah, maybe they just always knew they wanted to extend him, and they knew the longer it went, the more it would piss off the fans. Like, imagine if Dvorak signed an extension today. Like, imagine if that happened. Like, when Lawton signed his extension back in 2021 or whatever it was, like on deadline day. Like, imagine you see Nick Dowd, Nicholas Watt going for these prices.
No, but see,
and then Dvorak gets extended.
That doesn't work though, because then you should just gave him the 4x4 in the offseason before.
Oh yes, yeah, exactly. And
just say screw it. Screw what the fans think.
Knew,
I don't think people have been that mad about it.
If you knew there was a chance, any chance whatsoever, that you would not trade Christian Dvorak and you would extend him during the season, give him the 3 years at $3 million that he wanted. whatever Vancouver had on the table.
Yeah,
For
something
him.
similar.
Give him that. And then you still have him, you still have Cage, still have Couturier, you still have those guys locked up. But then it's only through 2028. It's not through Dvorak through 2031, which sounds like a fake year. Like, which now that's why I've been wondering, like, do the Flyers trade Noah Cates? $4 million for the next 3 years after this one. He's 27. I don't think he's gonna have, like, he's probably at his ceiling right now. He's got a great contract. If you can trade Cates for like a Geeky, like that's a trade that I would be interested in. Like, give a team a shutdown 3C, get back a first round pick and a top prospect for him. Like, I feel like that is a sneaky move that Briere might do, and like a team like the Wild could look for. If they're not going to pony up for Trocheck, maybe you get Urov out of Minnesota for Noah Cates and like something like that. Like, because you have Couturier, you have Dvorak, you have Cates, and you have Grunstrom now playing center for some reason.
Go back home. Stillwater, Minnesota's finest. Noah
Exactly.
Cates.
Exactly. Give him Cates and Brink for Urov and a first. Like that's a great trade for both sides right there. Take back Hartman's contract if you have to as well. Like that's fine. But
Hartman will be playing 1C.
He would be. Yeah, he's playing 1C for them sometimes behind it depends if Jeek is in the lineup or not there. But
it's tough, man. Like, it's not, and I don't want to trade Noah Cates. I have no desire to trade Noah Cates. I have no desire. I think Noah Cates is better on the whole than Christian Dvorak. I've always thought that.
Agreed.
I mean, Dvorak, I don't think is going to have the same sort of season. And we talk about Noah Cates and not being offensive. 31 points in 60 games, 12 goals. All right. My 3C, I'm cool with that. Yep. He's the perfect 3C. Unfortunately, now we got 9 of them. As I keep saying, Couturier he's already going to be an anchor. He's already going to be a roadblock. That's just how it is. I'm done sugarcoating it. He's going to be a roadblock for all these guys that come up now.
He's a 4C he's a 3C at very best right now, probably a 4C. He has a full no move clause. Briere's not going to trade him. It's not worth buying him out. Like, at this point, it's just Couturier is there. Like,
but Dvorak and Cates, you can give Dvorak the credit of saying he played really well with Zegras. He got the most out of Zegras. He had really good numbers with Zegras. Cates was part of the best line on the hockey team for like a year. And you're trying to trade 2 of them, and it's not, I don't think it should be the best line on the team, obviously, but that is the facts of it. I'd rather you trade Christian Dvorak than shop Noah Cates in the summer and get like a first and some sort of prospect for him, right? It's tough because I don't like seeing guys like that forced out the door, but it seems like the numbers crunch and the ages of the other guys, it makes the most expendable guy Noah Cates. And
I don't want to trade Noah Cates. Like, I even like Christian Dvorak as a player. I just don't like giving him a 5-year extension as a 30-year-old when he's having a career. Like there's none of these guys really that I'm like, oh, I don't want them on the Flyers anymore. I mean, it's just maybe Hathaway, Delorier, Juleson. Like, these other guys, I'm like, okay, yeah, they have their moments that they can fit in somewhere, but it's the contract, it's the numbers crunch, it's all of that stuff there. So that's where the Flyers are at. I don't know what else to go on to now. You have any other thoughts going on in your head?
I think that's it, to be honest with you. I mean, like, I guess it's good to finish with this. Actually, this is good. What is your reaction going to be if tomorrow comes and goes and nothing happens from a Flyers perspective?
I'm going to be upset. But I would understand it. Briere has held to his prices in the past, getting the first for Walker, getting the first for Lawton, plus a prospect. If no one comes with a first-round pick plus for Risto, keep him. See what happens in the offseason. I still want something to happen, like trade Hathaway, trade Grunstrom, trade Delorier, get something. Ideally, get like a roster player back to play. But like as I wrote today, like the Christian Dvorak extension cannot be what is the major move of this season. You don't have to make any huge splashes, but like I feel like there needs to be some sort of activity to keep moving forward, to keep looking forward, not right now the Dvorak contract was kind of just like, okay, here's where we're at. We're fine with where we're at. Like, they need to use this deadline to keep moving forward.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really just up at this point to me. I don't expect there to be anything that comes back in return that I'm immediately excited about this year. But you're going to have guys next year. Luchenko should play next year. Bonk should play next year. A lot of these guys, should get a chance to be in the lineup. And I don't even hate holding Risto if you're really committed to trading him next year, because I do think I think it's shown that you can still get something for him. I've had some discussions with people on Blue Sky on Twitter in the Discord about maybe keeping Risto and just screw it. Let's just try and see if we can sneak into the playoffs. And I don't care if I get a first round pick in return for them, if it's going to be in the 20s or something, right? Because you already have a lot of guys who are going to be coming up who are guys you could get in the 20s, unless you get, like Scott Laughton was a guy you took in the 20s.
Yeah.
So like he's a good hockey player. He's been very useful for a very long time for multiple teams. It's not a guy that you necessarily need. You got Noah Cates doing it right now, right? You can find guys who can fill up the lineup like that. So I understand that, but at the same time, I think it's just time for a guy like Risto to go. I think it's just time for guys like Hathaway. What is Garnet Hathaway really going to do here? Like, he's looked bad. Yeah. I feel like he is one of those guys who, when the stage is bigger, when everyone's more amped up, he really thrives. And that's the opposite of what's going on with this team right now, even though they are, kind of quietly still in the outskirts of the playoff picture. It doesn't seem like he's going to be the best valued in Philly for the remainder of his career. And he's been one of the guys as well who just gets tossed around to a bunch of different teams, a bunch of different contenders, the Bruins and the Caps and things like that. So I think it's a lot of small trades, but if Risto doesn't go, I don't know why now, but I kind of wouldn't be shocked if Risto doesn't go now. I see how the market's sort of shaping up, and I don't know if Buffalo really wants to bring Risto back. I don't know how I would feel about that, especially at the price that they'd have to pay. And again, I just think that OEL thing, if Detroit really wants to do it, it's so easy to get that done. So, you get a couple picks for guys like fourth liners, low tier defensemen. That's probably what it'll end up being. And then we'll see if Risto has a market. I mean, he has a market for sure, but let's see if Briere is willing to really pull the trigger on a deal. He finds something he likes.
Yeah, like Hathaway has value to playoff teams. Like teams are going to want him on their fourth line in their room for the playoffs. Like that, they've shown that at previous deadlines when the Bruins got him. You had the good run there with the Capitals. So hopefully someone ponies up for him. I guess I'd be okay retaining on him if you had to for $1 million, but that takes up one of the 3 spots. But yeah, for Risto, like the big thing is just health. And we haven't really talked about that enough. It's like, okay, you can keep him, but what if he gets hurt again before the end of the year? That just completely handcuffs you.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a risk the Flyers should be willing to take. I wouldn't be shocked if they keep him. I just don't want the narrative to be, all right, we're close to the playoffs. We wanted to keep Risto and make this run. Like that can't be the narrative. It might be. It might say, all right, no one risked our price. Plus, the Flyers win tonight, 4-game winning streak, have an outside chance at the playoffs. And yeah, like looking at the other guys out there, Justin Falk can probably be had for a second round pick rather than a first. Zach Whitecloud might be flipped by the Flames. Luke Shen is similar kind of type to Risto. You can probably get for a second or a third. Like if teams don't want to give up a first round pick for Risto, plus like their Flyers aren't going to do it. And that's what Briere has shown. And I think he'll hold strong again at this deadline.
Yeah, just as to what the price that Briere is, or at least it's been leaked that the price is what it is, a first round pick and a prospect.
Yeah.
I could see a first round pick definitely happening. I don't know if someone's going to go in for like a prospect that is actually worth your time. Like maybe you get a 23-year-old who's played in the AHL for 2 years and sucked, but that's not really a prospect. That's just a guy, right? So that's just a body. I could see teams not meeting Briere's price, but at the same time, I think there's going to be a squeeze, and when we get to the early afternoon tomorrow, where you either got to do something or you don't, right? And I think there's definitely a good chance that some teams overpay, and there's a good chance that Briere just says screw it, and I'll trade him next year.
10 minutes ago,
just stays healthy.
10 minutes ago, I just wanted to check any, check the Slack, check Reddit, check everything here. But 10 minutes ago on Twitter, Pierre LeBrun tweeted, "Market expanded today for Rasmus Ristolainen. Sounds like some new teams entered the picture." So it seems like Ristolainen is one of the main guys that teams are going after. So if there is all this buildup and they do keep him, I think it'll be disappointing for the fan base, but understandable. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if teams do pony up that first round pick plus a prospect or similar value that the Flyers want.
Yeah, I think that's about all you can ask for. But if there are three teams, like if it's more than just a couple suitors going after Risto, I think you can really start to lean on him, and maybe that becomes a point where you get even more than what you're asking for. Right?
And at least two of them might be in the same division. You got Buffalo, you got Detroit. Maybe Boston gets back in there. If Tampa's sniffing around on him as well, like it's going to be like, all right, do I want this guy or do I want to go against this guy in the playoffs? Like that could add more to it as well.
I wonder if they sit him tonight. They're not going to sit him tonight.
They're not going to sit him tonight. Sealer's already out. So Adam Yinning or Jinning, whoever he wants it to be pronounced now, is probably going to be in. Or Jolson could be in. Maybe Jolson ends up getting traded. Yeah. He's a pending UFA. But now we got less than 23 hours until the deadline. Broad Street Hockey YouTube, we will be going live if anything happens tomorrow. Probably live tomorrow between 2 and 3, 3 and 4 at some point once everything wraps up to recap everything there as well. Jacob, any closing thoughts here?
No, I'm just looking forward to see what happens tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll be upset either way.
Yeah. All right. Make sure you, once again, thanks to FanDuel for sponsoring the show here. Make sure you follow Broad Street Hockey on Instagram at BroadSD Hockey. Jacob has been on there since the break, putting some good stuff up there. Subscribe, like, and comment on Broad Street Hockey YouTube channel, and leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple. All right. Until next time, thanks for watching.